Blackmagic Design, creating revolutionary solutions for film, post-production, and television.
Hi everyone, it's Indiana from Cinematography for Actors, representing No Film School for NAB. And we are back with a company rep, Emery from Frame.io. Frame.io is obviously one of my favorite platform softwares to use. And I know that I just watched your beta video that came out maybe a week ago.
Yeah, last Tuesday.
Yeah, and so that came into my inbox and I was excited about it. So I'm really excited in person to hear more about it for the No Film School watchers, viewers, readers, all the things. So Emery, talk to us about what is new with Frame.io, what to expect.
Well, Frame.io version 4 is the biggest update that we've ever done in Frame.io's history. It's a ground-up rewrite and redesign. You actually will not find a single pixel in version 4 that exists in version 3, and that's true across the web app, the iPhone app, and the iPad app. It's also rewritten essentially from scratch. What that means is we've had an opportunity to both reimagine every single feature and refine it and make it better, as well as introduce a lot of brand new features. So historically, if you've used Frame.io, it sounds like you have for many, many years, Frame.io has really been the post-production system for video review and approval.
Yes. Great
platform to upload your work-in-progress work, send a share link out to your clients,
Yes.
Get notes, those come back into the timeline, you sort of run your workflow like that. We built a really good business doing just that. In fact, we shared that we have over 4 million creative professionals using Frame.io. Really cool stat is over 80% of the Fortune 100 companies are using Frame.io, which is wild to me, but thank you. But with version 4, we wanted to really kind of expand our ambition of what the product can do for our customers. And the story of how we got to version 4 is back in January of 2020, we were doing kind of typical planning about, hey, where do we want to take this company? What do we want the next 5-10 years to be? And we certainly had tons of ideas based on everything we'd learned from talking to customers, thousands and thousands of conversations. And so we had all these things we wanted to do, but we had a lot of restrictions based on decisions that we had made kind of earlier in the history of building the product. And we said to ourselves, well, you know what, why don't we just put all those restrictions aside for a minute? Why don't we go through the thought process and the design exercise of what we'd want Frame.io to be if we had zero restrictions? And so we had blank sheet design, and we just designed what we thought we would do if we were to start over from scratch. And at the end of that exercise, we were so compelled by what we came up with, we said, we have to build this. This is the version of Frame.io that we want to build. So we started building it. It took many years, a little bit longer than we expected, but we're launching it here. We're super excited. And what we're doing is we're really expanding Frame.io beyond the review and approval tool into what we call the creative work management platform. And what does that mean? Well, in addition to actually doing creative work where you're in Premiere and you're in After Effects, there's also all this sort of ancillary process that happens. You have, and the sort of the larger the scale of people, the more complex this gets. And so there's typically these adjacent tools that live alongside the creative process. People might be using some, sort of productivity tools to kind of track different processes that are happening across the creative process, or spreadsheets with all this ancillary information about the work that they're doing. And so we said, we actually want to build a unified tool where you actually can do kind of creative work management process for not just video, by the way, but for, kind of any creative medium.
Okay.
So that's the pitch of Frame.io version 4.
Loved it. Yeah.
The challenging part about sharing this with the community is that I think it's something relatively new that people haven't really seen before. And so we're showing it, and I think we're seeing a lot of light bulbs go off of wow, this is going to be so powerful. So foundationally in version 4, which is the kind of the biggest, newest thing. I mean, there's so many things to talk about, but the biggest, newest thing is the introduction of our new metadata model.
Right.
And the metadata model allows you to set up any custom fields that you would like and input data that's relevant to your workflow, and then build these what we call collections, which are kind of like smart folders or custom views into your media, where you can sort of filter, group, and sort by metadata. All right, so what does this all mean in practice? This means that you can now use Frame.io for anything from a VFX shot tracking process to a casting process to a location scouting process. It really just expands the capabilities of what the product can do in a major way.
Wow, okay. Can we talk a little bit, so for the casting process and things
Yeah.
like that, can we talk about more use case for that, practical stuff for people who haven't seen the video yet? I don't know, maybe you have time to do a little demo for us on it, but can we talk more about the roles that weren't involved that much in Frame now and the accessibility use case for that?
Yeah, well, really, when all this kind of creative work management process, it really just revolves around the idea of data that you want to attach to assets. So if you think about a casting process, you get some audition tapes or some headshots, and what's the kind of data that you want to have attached to those assets? You want to have maybe the character that they're auditioning for, their name, their agency's name, maybe their agency's contact information, a star rating to rate how much you enjoyed their audition, maybe just like a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So you can create all these metadata fields, attach it to the asset, and then create views. So we were showing some demos of like, you can have a view of the folks that you have scheduled to audition on a certain date and the character names they're auditioning for, and then grouped by each audition date and who's coming in for what character, right? So that's what you want to do in casting. If you want to do, something different, I was just giving a demo of a VFX shot tracking workflow. Stu Maschwitz came. We know, the legendary Stu Maschwitz. And I was showing him how he could use Frame for a VFX shot tracking workflow. And he's like, well, yeah, I have all these, if I'm working on a shot, I want to know what work does the shot need? Does it need roto? Does it need 3D? Does it need tracking? And so we created a single select field where he entered kind of the categories of work that the shot needed. And then he wanted a custom approval status. So we created a status where it was like approved or could be better or rejected. And then we built these custom views where he could see by category. Here are the shots by category. Here are the ones that need 3D tracking. Here are the ones that need roto, and their approval status.
Right.
So, that's just an example of VFX. We could go on and on and on.
Yeah,
There's so
sure.
many workflows that you can create, and it's really up to the imagination of our customers.
It's just the customization of what you need, which is cool. When can we expect this to release for everyone, or what is the timeline right now?
So we introduced the beta of
yeah.
version 4 last Tuesday
Okay.
to our Pro Plan customers.
Got it.
We have 3 plans. We have a Pro Plan, a Team Plan, and an Enterprise Plan. It's available now in beta to our Pro Plan customers. Not totally widely available. We're opening it up slowly because it's a brand new product.
Yes.
We want to make sure that everything's totally stable. With a beta, I think there's some bugs to be expected, but we'll be opening it up more broadly to our Pro Plan customers over the coming weeks, and then to our Team and Enterprise customers later this year.
Fantastic. Well, I know that every project I do, I'm introducing Frame to the workflow, and the best part about it is that it's really user friendly. Anyone can go on, a new director, producers, whatever it is, they go on, they know exactly how to use it with a minute of instruction.
Yeah, and there's, I think we've done, even though we've introduced a ton of new features, one of the things I'm pleased to hear from users is we haven't heard any users say oh, this is so new, I don't understand how to use it anymore.
Totally.
It's not disruptive to your existing workflows. You just sort of can go kind of just keep using V4 without skipping a beat. There's 2 other things that I did want to call out about V4
please.
that we're pretty proud of. So we talked about the metadata and collections, which is really the biggest net new area of V4. We also overhauled sharing. Sharing is one of the most foundational aspects of Frame. You're using it to send out links, to get feedback from your clients and stakeholders. We totally overhauled sharing. So if you use Frame.io today, so you're used to having to pick whether you want to share a presentation or review link. Review links have comments, presentations don't. Presentations have branding, review links don't. So we decided to just combine these into one sharing flow. So now you hit share and you get taken to what we call the share builder, where you can just totally customize everything about the share. You can add a lot more branding options. We have these big, beautiful header images you can add, custom logos and colors. You can determine what metadata you want available. You can switch it to the real layout and change the color scheme. So lots and lots of customization. Just they're beautiful. What I love seeing is all the different examples that you can create with shares, and each one looks so different. I'm like, wow, when you customize it, it just looks really professional.
Just putting the tool, you're just enabling the tool to go into someone's hands and be do what you want with it.
Yeah.
And do it in the Frame.io workflow.
That's right.
We love that.
So sharing is powerful. There's one feature in sharing I wanted to call out, which is we have something called a featured field. So all this metadata is awesome, but when you send out a share link, wouldn't it be awesome if your client could input a star rating or an accept or reject or an approval status?
Okay.
So when you're creating a share, you can pick one field that we call the featured field, and now your stakeholders that are recipients of these links can input, I like this one, I don't like this one, or
Nice.
Utilizing any of those metadata fields.
Right.
So that's sharing, big overhaul, really awesome. The other thing I want to call out, the last thing is, it's I mentioned it's completely redesigned, and the front end has been completely rebuilt. And we've always cared deeply about design and performance, but we went so hardcore on performance. When you use software that you love or you hate, often the difference is how quickly the interface is responding to what you want. You know, people often describe bad software as kludgy. And like, what does that mean? It means that like the interface kind of, you click something and it sort of like responds slowly, and then like different things load and bounce around. It's like you're just not be able to move swiftly.
Yes.
And we went so hardcore on the measurement of performance in V4. Typically, when a user like clicks and you're measuring sort of the response time, people would say that like the UI rendering in 500 milliseconds would be like world class, really awesome. And you know, something down like 300 milliseconds would be, you know, like that's below that, it's imperceptible. We disagree. We think that down to 100 milliseconds or 50 milliseconds, you can really feel it. And so we aimed for 100 millisecond response time in every type of interaction. And we just really spent a lot of time on, you know, loading patterns. Like when you open a project and it has, you know, 100,000 assets, you know, how quickly can you just flick that mouse or trackpad and just let that grid fly and have everything load in? And we have all these asynchronous loading patterns. We just really, really went to town on making sure that this felt so awesome to use.
Cool.
So that's also something.
So the thumbnails are quicker, the loading of all the files, everything.
Yeah, because there's all this complex data, especially with the metadata.
Yeah.
We have like a lot of data that we're loading.
Yeah.
So it took some really novel approaches to our data loading strategies to get, you know, to be able to load, you know, a really, really large project super quickly.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to use it myself, and I know that there are a lot of people that are really excited about it. And thank you for always signing off on all the emails.
Yes.
Yeah. From Emory at Frame.io.
That's right.
Thanks, everyone, so much. See you.